All right, we're just winging it from here on out, Steve. Okay,
All right, here we go.
coming to you live from Papa Ball's basement.
The man cave. The man cave. All right, yo, I'm Mr. Movie
Slash Dr. Krave.
slash Dr. Krave.
Is that all one thing? Is it Mr. Movie Dr. Krave, or like are those two totally separate?
Well, the original idea is to do. I thought Dr. Krave I could get kind of like video games and other stuff, comic books and stuff like that. And that was kind of one of my ideas. But like, I kind of started focusing on Mr. Movie pretty much, and just kind of
didn't someone else have the name Mr. Movie? Or?
Yeah, but I had Dr. Krave, so they can suck it.
So it's this is completely original. This is all Steve's original.
Unless I call
masterpiece.
it. Hell, I could just change it to Movie King for all.
Movie that sounds like Smoothie King. You can't do that.
Exactly. So I picked Mr. Movie because it was an email I had.
Well, all right. Well, whoever else is Mr. Movie, you can go suck a fat one.
No, just
totally kidding. You're probably way more legit than we are, but.
So our first film series is going to be about the Fast and the Furious, which started back in 2001. You can kind of tell, and I looked it up. One of the things was the original Fast and the Furious films was like a 1950s greaser type film, and so this one I think, didn't have any story, but it had sort of a and it was kind of an intro because what we have is Paul Walker, who 99 he was in She's All That with Freddie Prinze Jr. and he was in Varsity Blues, and this was kind of his first film, and kind of it's interesting how it can evolve into this sort of series after 7 films, and he, as a character of Brian O'Connor, he's changed a lot because if you think about Brian O'Connor in the first one, he's really cocky.
It's kind of like young gun street racer.
And I think and there's that line where he says, "Dude, I almost had you," and he's like, Dominic Toretto's like, "You never had me because you never had your car." And Dominic Toretto kind of reminds me of this film's society of the street racers. He's kind of the godfather. Almost. Yeah. Basically, what I was saying is he is sort of introduced kind of to this society and kind of embraced by Dominic Toretto once he starts winning. When he's more embraced with the society, with the Dom's kind of crew.
Street racing, yeah, it's not the society. The street racing.
The street, crew. He sort of is, when he says a line, he says, "You can have any beer you want as long as it's a Corona," and kind of how Vince is sort of like, "What are you doing with the Busta? You can't be hanging out with this guy, And he's like, because the Busta got me out of handcuffs. It's sort of that, because where were you when I was? Yeah. Where were you when I was, needed you? And yet the guy that you that you tell me is, is wrong for me. You're, or not wrong for me, but is the one I shouldn't trust, actually helps me out." And then the thing is,
so that's essentially how he becomes a part of the family.
Yeah, I mean, there are little things that he becomes, Yeah. And then he and Mia kind of have a relationship.
Yeah, too. And that's also because of Vince also. Yeah. So Vince essentially
is matchmaker.
He's the reason he's in this family. Yeah. And he's the reason that he has a relationship with Mia. And he completely did not want that to happen, so that's really funny.
So, but the film, and then you kind of, and that was kind of the thing about it when you were watching it. I guess at the age of 13 or 11, is I just kind of remember watching the first half of it, and then forgetting all about race wars or any of that kind of stuff. But really, what happens is when Brian O'Connor, when the because remember his name was Daryl Spoonman. It sounds like a serial killer. Yeah, is that what you are? And then when there's a race. Was it at Race Wars or was it before Race Wars where Jesse gets shot and he calls the medics? Well, and that was sort of when.
No, that's when that's after Race Wars when they go back and do one more job.
Yeah.
Remember? Because that's before Jesse gets shot, but that's when Vince gets shot.
Okay, yeah. Because that's when it really kind of becomes something that, at least with that.
Yeah, that's the end of the movie though, because like he lets Mia go with Dom.
Dom, yeah.
And because he calls in like his badge number and stuff or whatever.
And Vince is kind of like.
But Vince is in like critical condition, so.
Not Vince. I'm thinking Vin Diesel. Dom's kind of like, I can't believe you lied to me after all this stuff. And then, so I mean, that kind of was where it lays
yeah, so
off.
they obviously go away because they don't really like trust Brian anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, I mean, it's not that they don't trust him; it's just they can't believe that he revealed he was a cop.
And I think that's kind of what I meant by kind of like, that's the other thing too, is that he sort of, if we would have seen, I think in the film, more of him going to like the detective, and I think you do see that.
Yeah, where that little pool scene.
Where he goes to the pool scene, and there could have been a little bit more where he's like, are you getting yourself too much in to it, to this, are you, don't forget that you're still a cop. And I think that's kind of what is sort of what he changes to, is he kind of ends up tasting the forbidden fruit and ends up eating the apple in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Or he gets, he gets dragged in. He gets kind of caught up in the whole thing. Now, John Singleton, who directs it in Too Fast, Too Furious, which came out in 2003.
All right, Steve. So what do you rate The Fast and the Furious?
Okay. I rate it about a 78.
Okay, that's the Steve scale. So what is this compared to?
Comparing it to Rotten Tomato, which gave it a critic score of 53% and a user score of 74%.
Okay, how about IMDb?
IMDb gave it a 6.7.
Okay. And
out of 10.
Why do you rate it the way you do?
It's the reason, I think part of it was when it first came out, there was something about it. Maybe, I think just being 13 in 2001, and it kind of felt like that, I don't know, some weird big kid type movie.
Uh-huh.
But what I liked about it is that it was sort of a really, you kind of didn't really know what was going on. I mean, it's kind of, it had kind of like a really, at least the first one had a really mediocre plot, like about, street racing, but it sort of, you look at it now and it's the one that kind of started it all.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Thanks for listening to our first episode on the Fast and the Furious series, The Fast and the Furious. Be on the lookout for our second episode, Too Fast and Too Furious.